My name is Katie Sellers, and my presentation today is on the September 11th of 2001 attack on the World Trade Center. Where was the Trade Center located? It was in New York City, and then the actual location of it was the corner of Liberty and Church Streets. And you can see here a picture. This is what it looked like, and then it's not far from the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. What agencies responded to this disaster? Local and state governments, of course. Police, fire, and rescue from New York and everywhere. People were coming in from all over the country. FEMA activated the Federal Response Plan, and 28 federal agencies and the American Red Cross came to assist in the response and recovery of this. They released at least 8 urban search and rescue teams to search for victims that were buried in the rubble of the disaster. Of course, there were disaster medical teams and mortuary. There were tons of casualties. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers also helped handle the debris removals, and there were engineers, all kinds of technical volunteers, search dogs. One actually even died in the rescue. The cost, after all estimations were made, was around $2 trillion. This includes the loss of 4 civilian aircrafts, which obviously you can't even imagine the cost of the lives lost in those aircrafts. About $385 million. The Twin Towers and the replacement was about $3 to $4.5 billion. The Pentagon was also struck on the same day and is included in this estimate, which is up to $1 billion. The cleanup cost was about $1.3 billion, not including, all the people who traveled to get there to help the cleanup. Property and infrastructure damage is about $10 billion to $13 billion. The federal emergency funds, which includes heightened airport security, sky marshals, government takeover of airport security, new anti-terrorist devices that they implemented, cost of operations in Afghanistan, which is a direct response to this attack. These all accrued up to about $40 billion in cost. Job losses for about 83,000 people was about $17 billion in lost wages. Property, $21.8 billion. Losses to the city of New York, which is, obviously huge, $95 billion. Insurance industry, $40 billion. Air traffic revenue, because people were terrified to fly after this, was about $10 billion. And then the fall of the global markets, which is incalculable and still recovering today. Morbidity and mortality. The death certificates that were able to be provided the number was 2,749 as of February in 2005. 13 people died after the disaster from injuries received. 23 of those people that died were New York City police officers. People from 83 different countries died in these attacks, which is pretty crazy. The New York City Fire Department lost 343 firefighters. Who was impacted? People in New York, of course, were directly impacted at the moment. Across the country and all over the world, we felt impacts. The death toll affected the deceased, those that left behind, and the nation as we watched, our peace of mind as a nation crumble. There's a quote here. 7 in 10 Americans say that they have experienced depression since the attacks. New York State Office of Mental Health estimates that more than 33,000 showed symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's just in New York. So, obviously, the psyches of many Americans were greatly impacted by this disaster. President Bush actually called it a crime against humanity in several different occasions because, it was terror. It was against all things freedom, everything that America represents. The acts of these terrorists would spark a war on terror that is still impacting the world today. We're still dealing with that. And, you know, obviously that impacts everybody, you know, people all over the world. The Engaged Partnership, which is the leaders at all levels collaborated to develop, share response goals, and align capabilities. There obviously was many examples of engaged partnership because so many groups came together for the disaster and many days following to help the recovery and response, and not only just the response to the disaster but also to the attack from Al-Qaeda. They all work together, like even from an individual basis to team members, volunteers, you know, FEMA, Red Cross, government, state and local, and then the United States government. Everybody had to come together and collaborate, and they all shared common goals. Let's see. It would not have been possible without the engaged partnerships. And tiered response, which refers to the efficient management of incidents so that such incidents are handled at the lowest possible jurisdiction